O Minotaur, a beast of rage and a noble glaring. O Minotaur, none can deny your noble bearing. Around imperial ruins you gather, eternal guardians with hooves and horn. What memories led you to path there? Is it Belharza or the empire that you mourn? O Minotaur, are you monster, mer, or man? O Minotaur, tell us how you fit into the divine's plan. Tamriel is a breeding pool for various creatures, humans, and beasts alike. The individuality of these terms becomes indistinguishable once divine or malicious intervention morphs one of them into a race capable of unconventional things. The Minotaurs of Tamriel are just that, a race destined for greatness, yet limited by the ignorance of humankind and their indifference towards all things greater than themselves. Many organizations of humans have sought to rid Tamriel of those that they deem dangerous or puny, and sadly none can escape the wrath of never-ending ignorance. None can escape a crusade of hate fit to erase every trace of past life. The once intelligent and cultured Minotaurs have fallen to the ideologies of such groups, devolving into the very creatures they were painted as by the Third Era. Hey there everyone, this is Xith, and today we'll be talking about Minotaurs in the Elder Scrolls universe and how their true and initial legacy was tragically wiped from history by the Alessian Order and their crusade of hate towards indifference. Minotaurs, or rather bullmen, referred to as the men of Tor/Tar, are a beast-folk race native to Cyrodiil and have been described as creatures with the body of a man and the head of a bull, and their appearance surely confirms this. They stand tall on their hoofs, utilizing their height and inherent strength to intimidate possible foes. They possess thick tufts of fur that outline their beastly skin, the skin of both man and bull, as if they were carefully curated through divine means. Signature horns protrude from the hardy skulls, offering the demeanor of a creature fit to cripple a squadron of foes. Their history is much more than tragic though, and their heritage supposedly dates back to the slave queen Alicia herself in the First Era, one of the most renowned figures of Tamriel, the first empress of Cyrodiil. Before I can convey the pitiful downfall of this race, I first have to dissect their past life and purpose in the First Era, and that isn't at all an easy thing to do, seeing as how the lore makes it clear that the Alessian Order had a huge role to play in destroying nearly all traces of the intelligent and sophisticated Minotaurs of the First Era. Firstly, the Alessian Order as we know it was a hugely influential order that preached mainly monotheism and monotheistic tendencies amongst their fanatical members, and their rule was more than just severe. They became part of the Alessian Empire as a theocratic power within, eventually even matching the Alessian Empire itself in terms of authority. Their methods of indoctrination included the purification of non-humans, and their ideals and beliefs were based on the eradication of creatures that drew suspicion, even sentient ones at that. Minotaurs were ripe for the picking. Their assimilation into Alessian society dated back to the Crusades of Alesia herself, and although no factual records have survived to actualize this, Alesia is believed to have had an intimate relationship with the supposed demigod Morihaus, the Breath of Kine. Morihaus was a gift from the divines. He was a winged man-bull that sought havoc among the ranks of the oppressive and ancient Aelid forces in Cyrodiil. Alesia supposedly consorted with Morihaus, and their relationship is said to have birthed one of the firstborn Minotaurs called Belharza. Many scholars have claimed Belharza to be the main link to all Minotaurs present on Tamriel, and scholars even claim that modern Minotaurs trace their lineage back to the Alessian dynasty. Belharza even succeeded his mother Alesia as the emperor of the Alessian Empire, and this in turn led to the widespread acceptance of bullmen in Alessian society. But humans nevertheless still harbored subconscious suspicion, and we'll soon find out why. All records of his reign have been destroyed or burned by the Alessian Order, which doesn't come as a surprise. The only notable document that survived states that Belharza struggled to keep back angry hordes of Aelids. It is also implied through one of his artifacts, called Belharza's Stone, that he had to deal with constant clashes from precursors of the xenophobic order that would later be established as the Alessian Order, further indicating that even before the order became a dominant factor, they were beginning widespread purge of Minotaurs. These purges were carried out by Alessian troops that openly rebelled against their own Emperor Belharza. But alas, some scholars disregard this creation myth as both heretical and theoretically illogical, but what's for certain is the influx of Minotaurs as members of Alessian society. They were growing in numbers during and after the reign of Alessia, and that is a fact. Besides their inherent anatomical capabilities, early Minotaurs were also properly educated and sophisticated, obediently following the guidelines of what was a predominantly human society. They were even supposedly given the honor of serving as personal defense guards of Alessia herself, granting even more support to their astute positions as trusted figures in the Alessian Empire. Despite their undying devotion and loyalty, the death of both Belharza and Alessia jump-started the Alessian Order and their incentive to purge Alessian society of Minotaurs, as the general public was still suspicious and fearful of their presence. This state of general discontent is what the Alessian Order utilized to open a new frontier of genocidal attacks against all things indifferent or non-human. This hateful crusade had Minotaurs reclassified as simple brutes, categorizing them among trolls, ogres, and monstrous creatures alike. Although innately powerful, Minotaurs couldn't stop the might of unity, and they were soon purged or driven from the comfy bounds of the Cyrodiilic cities, left to wallow in conditions fit only for tribal life. Their inborn physical abilities, as well as exquisite senses of smell, offered them more than enough chances to become great hunters and gatherers. Their moderate resistance to magic allowed for proper defense from any humans bold enough to invade their already cramped territories, and many Minotaurs resorted to tribal means of life as to successfully survive the harsh environment they've been forced into. Not many generations in, though, sources of education started to dwindle, and Minotaurs that have previously been educated perished, and all of those tribes underwent a process of intellectual decline due to the gradual perishment of their noble ancestry. Even for tribals, Minotaurs are fairly social creatures, yet their hierarchy is somewhat dependent on the dominance of males, with female Minotaurs acting as breeding stock for the dominant tribe member. Although intellectually devolved, they've retained instinctual habits pertaining to loyalty and heritage. Field researchers in the Second Era have also concluded that they exclusively liked congregating near ancient sites of the Alessian Empire, further hinting at their inborn and instinctual loyalty towards the founding dynasty of the Alessian Empire. This is possibly due to their ancestral connection to Morihaus or even Belharza and the society that they were previously accustomed to. And although those instincts don't seem to dwindle, time is realistically their worst enemy, for they seem to devolve into more brutish and primitive creatures as time goes on. We haven't heard of the state of their society as of the Fourth Era, but it doesn't take a scientist to figure out how harshly time has treated this race of beast folk. It is quite a shame their history was so swiftly erased. They were stripped of any traces of dignity as to keep up the animosity surrounding their race. It is even more of a shame that we can't get a detailed glimpse into their lives during the First Era, because I'm convinced that early-day Minotaurs were once magnificent creatures that deserved nothing but respect from their human peers. This definitely isn't the first time that a race has been burned and pillaged by the ignorance and perpetual greed of humans. Tamriel's history is full of xenophobic orders and figures that made sure to erase the legacy of what they feared. Minotaurs were gifted traits of both man and beast. This was no mere coincidence, yet most definitely a supernatural feat. Lest it be divine or magical, their existence had a purpose beyond struggle and hopeless endeavors.